grew up in Bacchus Marsh and then moved to Ballarat when I was about 13 or 14. On my draft year, I was captain of the footy club. Unfortunately, had a knee reconstruction, so missed 12 months of footy. Came back as an overage player, had a reasonable year, won the best and fairest, did a pre-season at Richmond and spoke to a couple of clubs, but for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. I wanted an opportunity to play regular senior football, and with the way the VFL is structured, it can be very difficult to find that, especially with the alignments. And I probably didn't back myself in enough to be able to compete with AFL listed players at that time and actually cement a regular spot at an aligned club. So I went to Port Melbourne. I just wasn't fulfilling my potential as a player. You know, I was a really poor player in the VFL at that time. I was in and out of the Port senior side, and I felt that I needed to step outside my comfort zone. I needed to improve my football, and the best way to do that was to go to a club, probably a stronger state league competition, and at a footy club where I wasn't going to be guaranteed a game. And you know, relocating your life from Victoria to South Australia, you've got to change something to make it work. And I was really forced to change the way I played and get better at areas and really critically self-evaluate myself for the first time, rather than blaming everyone else for the player that I wasn't, being the player that I wanted to become. Probably for the first time, I just looked at myself in the mirror and honestly just said, look, you're not as good as you think you are, and these are the areas that you're deficient. This is why, you know, you're a bit part player at Port Melbourne, and this is why you haven't been drafted, and achieving the things that you wanted to since you were a little kid. And it was really liberating because I felt for the first time that I was actually in control of where my footy was going.
For the first time in 90 years, Norwood are back-to-back premiers.
Yeah, it was great. You know, you don't get the opportunity to play in back-to-back state league premierships all that often, and you hear of players like Bobby Skilton win 3 Brownlow medals, an absolute legend and doyen of Australian football. Tony Lockett, you know, the game's leading goal kicker, never played in a grand final, never played in a premiership, I think junior and senior level, and I got to play in 2 in 12 months. So yeah, it's without a doubt, it's the highlight of my career and probably my life so far. I haven't really done a lot outside of football and being only 25, but it was just the most amazing experience, and the most wonderful thing about it was being able to form lifelong friends. And you know, you often hear people talk about it now that I can look back and reflect on it. You know, I'm really excited. Every 8-9 years now, I get to catch up with some of my best mates and have a reunion and, you know, talk about all the great times that we had. I could have easily have stayed there for another 5 or 6 years, really. But you know, you can be Peter Pan and, you know, doing what you want to do and never grow up, and that's what Adelaide really is, and especially when you're playing SANFL football. And at a club like Norwood as well, where you're having continual success, but it gets a point where you've probably got to, you know, reevaluate and go, well, is this what's best for me in the long term? And I've got a family business back here in Melbourne, and it was just the opportunity that, you know, if I put my head down for the next 3 or 4 years, I could really set myself and support my family. And whilst I would love the opportunity to go back there, it was just the right time. CAP stayed in contact and come the end of the year. I'd sort of relocated back. I really hadn't spoken to Collingwood. It was about October, November, and they'd signed Tommy Couch, and then they'd picked up Tay Adams and Paddy Carnesis in the draft, and there was sort of all these inside midfielder spots sort of, you know, being fulfilled, and I sort of just got on the phone straight away, and I just said, look, you know, Taps, is there still the opportunity coming on board? And somehow sort of walked away from the meeting, not too optimistic that I was going to be able to play for Collingwood, and then I got the call sort of 12 hours later saying, yeah, look, we're still really keen. Would you like to come in and sign a contract? And it's just the way it worked out. So, been a lifelong Collingwood supporter. So, in terms of my footballing journey, this is probably, you know, the last step for me, and, you know, fulfilling a dream when, you know, I'm never going to be good enough to play AFL. So this is as close as it gets. We find ourselves really well placed, which is all we can ask. So, if we can finish off the year and really cap off the good work that we did at the start of the year, then I think that's going to be a really solid and consistent reward for the effort that we've put in so far. So hopefully win a premiership with Collingwood would be, yeah, that would actually be a dream come true.